الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نكمل إن شاء الله. We continue with أخصر المختصرات. And last time we talked about الإجارة. We finished the chapter of الإجارة. And today إن شاء الله تعالى we'll just take the فصل of المسابقة. So not much إن شاء الله. المسابقة and then we'll take the hadith إن شاء الله. So this is in the في العقود in the transactions. And the first statement in the فصل وتجوز المسابقة على أقدام. If you guys are following. For those who are not with us, we're going kind of a word by word by the متن, and it might not be the most perfect way to study the mutun. It's supposed to be in the Arabic language, but this is a step forward inshallah, so that we can next time inshallah ta'ala we just say it only in the Arabic language. So after الإجارة, the ulama, they mentioned this عقد of المسابقة. المسابقة, which is a word used for competition, and whether it's permissible to take money as a result of that versus not to take money. So since it's a عقد, a transaction, a contract, so certain things are not permissible, certain things are not permissible. So this is where the first مسألة here وتجوز المسابقة على أقدام وسهام وسفن ومزاريق وسائر حيوان, which means تجوز, it's permissible. المسابقة, المسابقة from السبق is when someone surpasses someone else. That means والله we didn't finish الإجارة. When we stop? Oh سبحان الله. طيب جزاكم الله خير. It's my fault. So we go back again to ويضمن مشترك ما تلف بفعله, which is in the الإجارة. So it starts with ولا يضمن أجير خاص ما جنت يده خطأ. So this is with regards to الضمان, and الضمان is the guarantee in the عقد of الإجارة. Since الإجارة is whether it's إجارة عين أو إجارة منافع. إجارة عين when an item is being rented, like an apartment, car, and so on, versus the benefit or having someone else or having a human being to hire someone to do a job for you. So here he says with regards to الضمان or the guarantee, he said ولا يضمن أجير خاص ما جنت يده خطأ. We talked about الأجير الخاص. الأجير الخاص is when someone is hired specifically for you. Does he bear the responsibility if some damage happens? So he says ما جنت يده خطأ لا يضمن. He does not guarantee. He's not responsible for anything that happens without any negligence from his end, without تعد ولا تفريط, without تعد, without transgression, without negligence from his end. And that is, for example, if you hired a driver, only driver for you, driving your car. So if you make an accident without being negligent, without transgressing the limits, then he has no responsibility in this. Why? Because he's أجير خاص. He's your own personal worker that you hired. Versus if he is mushtarak, that means he is ajir, as this will be mentioned, that he's driving for you and someone else, as it will come inshallah. So we just finished al-ajir al-khas, and the same thing with the medical doctor and things like this. And then after that it says وَيَضْمَنُ مُشْتَرَكٌ مَا تَلِفَ بِفِعْلِهِ. وَيَضْمَنْ, so what's يضمن? The verb of الضمان, that means he guarantee. And every time the word al-daman is mentioned in the fiqh, that means he guarantee what? If damage happens. So if it's, and always al-daman, whether a person, the contract is a contract of amana, if it's something that is in this amana, meaning you entrusted someone to keep something for you, he does not make daman. If you give someone an item, he's traveling, can you please take this box of sweets to my family, right? And he takes it. He's not getting money for it. He's just taking it doing you a favor. If it's lost, he does not have to purchase the same thing. So this why? Because it's amana. If someone kept something with you as an amana, as a trust, if the plate gets stolen, he does not have any responsibility, no liability on him whatsoever. So this is what ad-daman. And some things people would guarantee they're responsible for it. So here, if the ajir is mushtarak, if the ajir is mushtarak, and ajir mushtarak is the one that you hire him for a benefit, but he's not the only one, you're not the only one that he works for. So he's not ajirun khas, he's ajirun mushtarak. So that means you take your car to fix, for someone to fix your car. He fix your car and he fix other people's car. So he's mushtarak, he's common ajir, he's hired to do things for multiple people at the same time. So this is al-ajir mushtarak. If the ajir is mushtarak, yadman, he guarantees ma talifa bifi'l. What he talifa is what got ruined by his actions. So again, you take your car to a car shop and he breaks it. He is responsible for fixing it. Different than you hire a mechanic to work for you. Right? If you hire a mechanic to work for you, if he did something without, again, negligence or so, he does not guarantee. But al-ajir mushtarak that means you're not hiring him for yourself. He is doing the work for multiple people. So here يضمن ويضمن مشترك ما تلف بفعله. If he ruined something or he damaged something بفعله, by his own action, لا من حرزه ولا أجرة له. لا من حرزه, not from his حرز. الحرز is when something is safe. So if it's something that was safe, that means he put the car, for example, in a place where it's secure and it's well protected, and something happened, that means he doesn't guarantee this. So it has to be بفعله. ما تلف بفعله لا من حرزه. So he is what's ruined by his actions, he guarantee this. But if it's from a hirz, al-hirz is again something, a secure deposit or something that is well kept. So in this case, there is no guarantee for him in this case. So there's no daman on him in this case. So if you leave the car in the car shop and that he has to spend the night there and he locked it and everything is fine, and a thief comes and he steals the car, that ajir al-mushtarak, he does not guarantee it. Because he did his job, he secured it, it's all there. I mean, this is how the original mas'ala comes from, unless something else was specified. So this is the difference between talifa bifi'lihi, that he ruined it by his own action, versus la min hirzihi, that he secured it and something happened to it, he's not responsible for it in that case. But then, wala ujrata lah. If it gets ruined, again, it's one of two cases. Either he did it or he secured it and it got ruined at the end. If he did it, that means he guaranteed it and that means he has to fix it. And then the second one, if it's safe and it got ruined, there's no ujra for him. He does not deserve to give him his work compensation because the item is ruined. So the owner of the car, for example, loses, and he also loses the amount of money that he's supposed to get. So he fixed the car, and he's supposed to get $500 for it, and he kept it in the shop, and the car was stolen. We don't say, well, he needs to give him still the $500. No. So he doesn't get his money, and the other person does not ask for the compensation of the car. Okay? So ويضمن مشترك ما تلف بفعله لا من حرزه, not from what he secures, ولا أجرة له, and there's no ujra for him. والخاص من قدر نفعه بالزمن والمشترك بالعمل. Now he's defining al-khas versus al-mushtarak. Al-khas is the specific one. من قدر نفعه, the one that his naf, his benefit is measured بالزمن, by the time. By the time, that means you hired them to work for you from 8 to 5. So this is ajirun khas. This is a specific ajir, someone that works for you. And there's here الضمير من قدر نفعه, his naf. meaning الأجير الخاص بالزمن with time wise. والمشترك بالعمل. The أجير المشترك, the common أجير, is the one that his benefit is by the action, not by the time. So his time is not yours. This is, he owns his own time. And he's mushtarak because he does job for you and job for someone else. You don't own the time of that person. Is it clear? So it's very clear, the issue, like when you hire someone to work for you versus that you outsource the job to someone else. So he works for you and someone else. So this is the difference here in al-Daman. Is it clear, the difference in al-Daman? He says وتجب الأجرة بالعقد ما لم تؤجل. وتجب الأجرة بالعقد ما لم تؤجل. الأجرة is the amount of money that they agreed to pay as a result of the إجارة, the contract of إجارة. So if it's a lease, if it's a rent, if it's a salary. So when does the salary becomes obligatory to give it? وتجب الأجرة. When does the أجرة تجب becomes obligatory? بالعقد. بالعقد meaning by the contract. By the contract here, this is with إجارة الأعيان, in the إجارة of the specific items. So if someone rented an apartment or house, then when does he pay? When is it mandatory to pay the rent? Is once they make the contract, not once he benefits from it, unless they agree otherwise. So if he rented an apartment, before he get into it, the owner, he has the right to get the money for the rent, because it's by the عقد. This is في إجارة الأعيان. ما لم تؤجل, unless they don't agree to delay it. Delay it at the end of the entire period. You rented it for a year. At the end of the year, give me all of the rent money, that's fine. Or at the end of the month, or by every month. So this is his حق. This is his right. So he has the right to أن يسقط حقه. He has the right to drop his right. But his right, if they in dispute, or the original ruling here, if it's إجارة أعيان, if the إجارة is about a specific item, you rent a car. Usually you pay at the end, right? But they guarantee that they keep something. But they have the right to take the money up front. Once you sign the contract, they take the money. ما لم تؤجل, there's that space of people can delay the matter. But then when it comes to the إجارة of المنافع, which is the second type of الإجارة, you hired someone to work for you. He doesn't get the money once you sign the contract. The manfa'a has to be established first, which is opposite than إجارة العين, right? So he has to work for you first. At the end of the month, he gets his salary. You hired someone to do a plumbing job, whatever there is, then he does not he has no right to take the money up front. Then it's to be paid at the end. But if they agreed otherwise, that's up to them. So it's opposite. So this is according to the type of al-ijar. Clear? So وتجب الأجرة بالعقد ما لم تؤجل. ما لم تؤجل, as long as it's not تؤجل, meaning to an ajal, to a specific time that comes later. So he says ولا ضمان على مستأجر إلا بتعد أو تفريط والقول قوله في نفيهما. Now again the subject of الضمان. ولا ضمان, no ضمان, no guarantee, no liability. Not sure if the word liability that gives it correct meaning. Can be liability, okay. Liability or ضمان على مستأجر. Who's the مستأجر? The one that is renting. So there is no ضمان on the مستأجر إلا بتعد أو تفريط. So if someone rented an apartment and something happened in the house or in the apartment, he does not guarantee to fix it, except إلا بتعد أو تفريط, unless he did something, unless he transgressed. التعدي, that means he did something wrong, or negligence. So if the apartment got burned, for example, he does not has no liability on him, unless he was smoking and he threw the cigarette on the floor, for example. Then he is responsible. But it's just something normal, things happen, then he does not get, there's no ضمان on him. ولا ضمان على مستأجر إلا بتعد أو تفريط, unless it's proven that he is the one that did it. Not just did it, that means there has to be the issue of a ta'addi, means he did something wrong, or negligence, left the door open for someone to come and ruin the place, something like this. The norm is that you close the doors, that you would turn the fire off, things like this. So anything of wrongdoing from his end, then he guarantees. ولا ضمان على مستأجر. So you see how the sentence is? Starts with that there's no ضمان on him. إلا except بتعد أو تفريط. It's the same ruling of someone that has something as an amana. So the amana applies the same thing. But then if they are in dispute, والقول قوله في نفيهما. As mentioned before, if they're in dispute, the one that is asking or the one that is accusing someone else, he has to have a bayina. He has to have an evidence. He has to have a dalil. If he doesn't have a dalil, then which word would the judge take? There's no evidence. Right? So the owner of the house, for example, he says that the mustajir, the one that was leasing it, he broke this or he did this wrongdoing. Do you have an evidence? No, I don't have an evidence. So this is your word versus the word of al-mustajir, of the one that is renting. So who's the word to be taken in this case? وَالْقَوْلُ قَوْلُهُ. قَوْلُهُ means al-mustajir. The one that is renting, his words wins. In this case, فِي نَفْيِهِمَا, in denying. So if he denies, then his word is to be taken. The owner accuse him, he broke this. And there's no evidence that he did any negligence or any wrongdoing. So the mustajir would say, I didn't do it. Then the judge will take the words of the mustajir, of the one that is renting. Please? Of course, there's details, but this is how the basic mas'ala is. And why this is, he has no guarantee, because they call it yadu amana. His hand is amana. He rented the place, so he is entrusted with the place. So when someone is entrusted with a place, if there's no evidence of any negligence, his words become in place, because he's ameen. He's originally that he's trustworthy, he's entrusted with it. So you cannot accuse him unless you have an evidence. Clear? Anything in the ijara so far? Should we go to the musabaqa? Anything? Every words are clear? تفضل.
تجب أجرة العقد ما لم تؤجل. So if someone is hired for a specific amount of time, that's considered إجارة العين. So this person should take his money up front?
No, because الإجارة is upon the manfa'a. Is upon the manfa'a and not, that means it's not an item. The إجارة الشخص, if a human being is hired for hours, this is not إجارة عين in the sense, even though we said that, but he's hired for a specific time to do some benefits. So he gets it at the end. Versus إجارة العين is that you get that thing to be with you, which is بيع basically, for a مدة معينة, the apartment, house and so on. Should we go to the Musabaqa? Al-Musabaqa, which is again competition. تجوز, he says, وتجوز المسابقة على أقدام. That means it's permissible for the Musabaqa to be على أقدام. أقدام is foot. That means if people are going to race with competition, who wins, who's faster, that's permissible. وسهام, siham is the arrows, to shoot arrows and who wins. وسفن, ships. ومزاريق, and مزاريق is the plural of مزراق, which is the small spear, throwing spears. All of these sporting basically activities and the like of this. وسائر حيوان, and the rest are the animals, riding on animals and things like this. All of that is permissible. لا بعوض. It's permissible as long as it's not with عوض. العوض is with money. العوض, remember the عقود, either عقود معاوضة, either the transaction is معاوضة, that means someone is getting money, someone is paying money. This is the المعاوضة. I took the عوض, I took the compensation of something. So there's no compensation, there's no money. So do whatever competition you want, no problem. As long as it's not with money, then it's all permissible unless it's haram. Unless the competition itself is haram. Competing to what is haram? Who drinks alcohol more, for example? I mean, something funny like this. Anything that is involves something haram or of course, gambling is an obvious one. So if the act of competition is halal, and as long as there's no money, it's permissible. So two people running, go ahead. No, this is what comes next. Yeah, so the first ruling is if two brothers are playing basketball and one would win and one would lose. This is a competition, but there's no money involved. That's permissible. That's fine. So this is the first one. As long as the act itself is not haram, is not neglecting the salah, all of these types of things. But then that's what it says لا بعوض إلا على إبل وخيل وسهام. Except these three, which is al-ibil, the camels, and khayl is the horses, and siham is the arrows. So these are the three cases where it's permissible to take iwad. It's permissible to take money as a result of this. So you have camel racing, right? And iwad is going to be the first, he would get that prize. That's permissible. Or horse racing, or shooting arrows, or anything that comes into the same categories, because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there's a nass here, there's a text here, لا سبق إلا في ثلاث. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا سبق. Sabq is like the Musabaqa. There's no competition except in three things. خف وحافر ونصل. خف وحافر. The khuf is the foot of the camels, the hafir is the foot refers to the horse, and al-nasl is the arrows. Because these things is to help with matters of jihad fi sabilillah, fighting for the sake of Allah. So that's why some of the Ahmad, they say anything that comes like this, for example, shooting guns, for example, is something like this, or I'm not sure what other things that can benefit for what these hilal or these reasons why it's permissible. But if we take it the very simple, we're not going into the fatawa, we're going to the simple ruling of the mas'ala. So there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and because of this hadith, you would find the different opinions with regards to as-sabq. But here, if it's iwad, only in these three cases it's permissible to have the iwad. And one of the conditions that will be mentioned that would also explain how to do it. So he says here, وَشُرِطَ and then, we're not talking about fatawas or contemporary issues. This is the original ruling of the mas'ala. So, he says, وَشُرِطَ with the conditions, and the condition is for what? With the things that will be with iwad. If something that is going to be, someone will get a prize, someone will get paid for being part of the competition, it has to be these three things. Al-ibil, wal-khayl, wal-siham. The camels, horses, and arrows. With the condition, ta'yinu markubain. Since there's money, then we have to make very clear the condition so that no injustice or anything that is not fair. Ta'yinu markubain. Ta'yin is specifying from al-ayn. Ta'yin markubain. The two would ride. Who are the ones that is going to ride? So this person and that person. So the individuals, right? To be known who are the individuals that's going to be part of the race. Or what is being, if it's markubain, that means the animal that is for them to ride on. So you cannot make a competition between camels and horses at the same time because their abilities are different. And it's not fair for those who win versus those who lose because they're going to get money. So now this can cause enmity or hatred or whatever. So things has to be fair. So ta'yinu markubain, and this is what al-markubain, and واتحادهما. That means they're so that you have a naw' and you have the kind of it, meaning camels, and then what type of camels, horses, and what type of horses. So if it's a competition with horses, you cannot get pure species. جزاكم الله خير. So species, the نوع of it. So that's what اتحادهما. الاتحاد is when something is united. So that means they are from the same categories, so that there's no unfairness in it. So تعيين مركوبين واتحادهما, so from the same type. وتعيين رماة. وتعيين also, that means specifying الرماة. So this is in arrows. Who's going to be the ones that is shooting the arrows? Child, for example, versus grown-ups. So that has to be specified. وتحديد مسافة, and to تحديد is like تعيين, but here التحديد الحد is the limit of something. So المسافة is the distance. So you specify the distance, whether they're going to run for 100 meters or they're going to shoot the arrows from that distance, things like this. So the مسافة has to be there. وعلم عوض وإباحته. This is what I wanted to mention earlier. علم عوض. How much they're going to get. The عوض is the compensation or the money. How much they're going to get. علم عوض. It has to be clear from the very beginning. Cannot be a surprise. وإباحته, that means it's permissible. It's not haram. So it is not haram, whether it's stolen or something like this, haram in general. And then وخروج عن شبه قمار. خروج is to come out. عن شبه قمار. القمار is gambling. شبه, the like of قمار. If it's قمار, if it's gambling, it's obvious it's haram. But with al-musabaqa, with the sabaq, there might be something in the borderline of qimar or maysir or gambling. And that's why this is mentioned here, أو شبه qimar. So the ulama they mentioned here is, how can the qimar or the maysir or the gambling be in place if you have 10 people competing and each one has to pay something, and one would take from the money that they collected the prize? That's like gambling, because everyone put some money, he wants to take it back. So he put money, and either he loses the money or he gets his money and the money of others. So this is qimar, this is maysir. This is not permissible. So to remove this is to have, as they say, one doesn't pay anything. So if one at least doesn't pay, then it's not qimar, it's not maysir, because one didn't pay anything. Or the prize will come from someone else, an organization or sponsor or something like this. So not everyone that paid. And also when sometimes people pay, not that the money will be taken to buy the prize, but to organize the place. They need to have a place to rent a place. They need to have referees to be given, whatever there is. So this is not necessarily qimar. So now, can people do this for basketball game or soccer game and things like this? And you have teams, and every team pay some money, and then the prize will be given from the amount of money that they collect. If we go with the first ruling here, anything that person gets money, it's only in these three things and nothing else. And this is one opinion clear because of the hadith. Those who said it's permissible, they said it's okay as long as it's not qimar, it's not gambling. So there's a sponsor, or the money that is paid to, again, to rent the field, to do something like this, not to buy from it the price. Or at least one team or two, they don't pay. Right? So this is with Al-Musabaqa, but in a very simple way with the Masail here. Let's read it together, inshallah, and see if the words are clear. He says, وَتَجُوزُ المسابقة على أقدام وسهام وسفن ومزاريق وسائر حيوان لا بعوض إلا على إبل وخيل وسهام. وشرط تعيين مركوبين واتحادهما وتعيين رماة وتحديد مسافة وعلم عوض وإباحته وخروج عن شبه قمار والله أعلم. So a person can say that, but it's okay as long as it's not qimar, as long as it's not lease, and as long as it doesn't cause enmity, and as long as it doesn't take away from the prayer and things like this, which is different than someone's job is to be a sports player. It's a different thing. So for someone to this his professional job, this is what they say it's not permissible. But people are competing because some might include it into the same thing because it helps the person with his strength and things like this. But things of no benefit, and that's why when it comes to games, for example, video games and stuff like that, this is not permissible.
Prize, like just tournament where everybody participates. The cost of the expense of the tournament.
Right. Yeah, if people are playing and the money is just to pay for the organization of the place, and nothing is to be paid for the price, this is no problem. This goes with the first category, which is it's permissible without عوض. عوض is when someone get compensated as an extra money for him as a result of what the results he made. And for someone to say to the other one, right?
So now person A tells person B, score 21 points on me, then I'll give you some prize. And that's it. And the next game they play, person B says to person one that, okay, this game, if you beat me, then I'll give you the prize. Something like that.
If it goes both ways, that's not permissible. But if it's just someone says it to someone else like that, it's it's in principle there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's not goes both ways. No, there's no maisa, there's no gambling in which a person would lose as a result of the other one put money and then he lost it. No, stop. So let's take the hadith, inshallah. It's the hadith number 96, inshallah. Hadith 96. Let's say it together إن شاء الله. عن أبي قتادة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فلا يجلس حتى يصلي ركعتين متفق عليه. إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد فلا يجلس حتى يصلي ركعتين. So this easy hadith inshallah. إذا دخل أحدكم المسجد, if one of you enter the masjid, فلا يجلس, he should not sit till he prays 2 rak'ah. And this is the hadith of Tahiyatul Masjid. And as we know that as the hadith, the nahi here is clear. If you enter the masjid, do not sit till you pray 2 rak'ah. And when it comes to the forbidden times, is it permissible for the person to sit in the masjid at the times after Asr, for example, or after Fajr, without praying Tahiyatul Masjid? This is a valid differences of opinions. And the difference of opinions here, just to make so that it's clear, it's a strong difference of opinion. So if someone chooses to sit, he's not to be called names or he did not follow the sunnah or anything like this. And the origin of the difference of opinion, you have a nahi. Do not sit till you pray 2 rak'ah. And then you have the other nahi where you forbidden to pray at these times. So which nahi is stronger than the other? So some ulama, they looked at the general nahi, that this is special, the issue of praying 2 rak'ah, this is a special act, that because of the other one is much broader, much general, so that takes over. And others, they said, when you look at the 2 nahi, one is weaker than the other. And the one is weaker is not to pray at the times of after Asr and after Fajr and just before Dhuhr. And one of which is that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يا بني عبد مناف لا تمنعوا أحدا طاف من البيت في أي وقت من الليل أو النهار أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Or the people of Bani Abd Manaf, do not stop anyone making tawaf at any time during the day or during the night. So when it's the issue of tawaf is salah, as the Prophet ﷺ said, إلا أن الله أحل لنا فيه المنطق. except that Allah permitted for us to speak. So tawaf all day, after Asr, after Fajr, before Dhuhr. And after the tawaf, it's even if it's after Asr to pray the 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim, yes. Because the hadith of the tawaf. So that means there's an exception here to praying after Asr. So that exception makes, according to the other opinion, makes the nahi not to pray after Asr weaker in intensity than the nahi of do not sit till you pray 2 rak'ah. So that means that then is stronger. That means no matter what time you enter the masjid, if you want to sit, you pray 2 rak'ah. And they went also with the, if it's close to Maghrib versus that is not close to Maghrib, because the karaha is more intense just before Maghrib. So is it better to stand or to sit? And in this case, there's all differences of opinions in there. So this is the hadith, inshallah, to memorize, inshallah. Right. If you always pray 2 rak'ah before you sit in the masjid, and you go to a masjid where if you pray 2 rak'ah, in some parts of the world if they have a stone, they will throw a stone at you while you're praying. So if it's a situation like this, then it's okay to avoid praying, or if it's gonna cause uproar in the masjid or things like this. And you have to assess the situation. If it's only someone might come and advise you, and you tell them, no, this is a valid opinion, that's fine. And maybe this can be something that a person can learn, but not to make it as if you're being defiant against the masjid. So you have to assess the situation most time. Inshallah, we'll stop here, since we had some of them from Maghrib. Is it okay? Stop here, inshallah. We have attendance code. This attendance code, inshallah, is أجير خاص and مشترك. أجير خاص and مشترك. So you can write AJEERAN خاص KHAS and مشترك MUSHTARAK, or in Arabic or anything. Inshallah. Is the prayer sunnah or wajib? Now, it's the majority of the ulama that this is upon that it's a stressed sunnah, and some had said that it's wajib because there's a nahi here. So, and the 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim is sunnah, is not wajib. 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim is sunnah, but it's permissible to be prayed. طيب جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم ربنا بحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك